Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. It is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with another weekly astrology update. How are we all feeling? I know here in the Philadelphia, we finally have sunshine. Last week was already totally exhausting because we're in between eclipse season. We got Mars in Cancer. And again, here in the Northeast, and I feel like a lot of this side of the country was just rain and darkness when all we're ready for is warmth and sunshine. But just hold on. Hold on, I know we're fighting that fight, but we are almost through to clear skies. It's not going to be this week, but it will be in about 2 weeks. I can promise you that. I want to remind everyone to follow me on social media, Cosmic Colleen, 1C across the board. And the reason why doing that, obviously just to support this podcast, is I sit with my notes for about a couple hours and I write about the astrology of the week. And then throughout the week, when I'm out there living life, under the stars and I'm with my clients, I see other ways that the astrology is playing out. And I usually share that, especially on my TikTok, on my Instagram. So if you want to keep updated on the day, definitely check that out. And thank you everyone who continues to support this podcast. Right now, I'm fully self-supporting. I don't ask for donations. I don't ask for money. For years, I've just been building this on hopes, dreams, and the support of others. And the best way you can support me is by sharing this with someone, rating, reviewing, subscribing, commenting on my social media that promotes this podcast. All of that really helps this podcast. And so many of you, so many of my day ones, I love you guys, do it for me all the time. I am so grateful, and that has really been a huge part of helping this podcast grow. And every week, I'm getting new weekly listeners. I look at my numbers, and it's like, okay, this is amazing. I started this podcast 4 years ago when it was the Hair Healer podcast, and I just didn't give up. I just keep going and going, and now it's really finally growing, and that is because of my day ones who have been riding this out with me forever, and I forever owe you guys so much gratitude. So just know you're always in my prayers, my thoughts, and I'm always sending good vibes. Okay, so today on Monday, we got Pluto stationing retrograde in Aquarius. We're going to talk about that. The sun is conjunct Mercury retrograde. We're going to talk about that. And then on Thursday, we have Venus squared Neptune. And then on Friday is the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. I know that's the tough whammy. That's going to be the majority of what we talk about on this podcast today, to be honest with you. And then the other transits will be a little bit shorter, but we're really going to get into this lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Before I jump into that, I want to tell everyone, because I talked about it on last week's episode, I did my astrology retreat and workshop. It was incredible. I'm so grateful for the experience, for these friends I'm building who are really good at helping me build. I have a good friend, Mike, and he's got a lot of Leo and a lot of Capricorn. So he is so good at building. He's good at building a foundation. He's good at filling the spirit. He's good at bringing people together. And he's been really such a big help in helping me build this. So there's going to be lots more to come. And we have a lot of plans building ahead. So stay tuned with that. But it was really a incredible experience to be there. And I think there were the facilitators, there was 5 of us. So outside of that, there was 12 or 13 people that showed up. And a lot of more men than women. And in general, I don't know if a lot of people have this experience. Men are a little at first more closed off to astrology or just don't really care about it. I'm finding that to be, more and more men are finding, are starting to like it. But they were so oh my God. I had a couple guys come up to me afterwards and I didn't really think too much about it. I'm used to going to the bar and a girl would be like, oh, you're a Virgo, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I didn't even know how deep this was. And I was like, yeah. And this was just a simple 1-hour workshop. And this is how deep it is. Imagine studying for years. It's a never ending cycle. I mean, it's a never ending study practice. It's really, really incredible. So it was just such a good experience and so much more to come. It just filled my whole spirit. So today I'm still rocking high from that weekend and being with that high vibrational people. And some of the people who had gotten there had shared that they were in a hard, tough mood. No surprise, in between eclipse season and Mars in Cancer. And they were nervous to come. But, one of the messages I shared with them and right away they're like, I feel 10 times better, is if you're in a mood, right? And you're in just one of those self-loathing moods, or you're sick of life, or you're upset, and you have the opportunity to do something that's high vibrational. Maybe a friend says, let's go to a walk, or someone says, do this meditation, or come to this astrology class. you are literally going to take yourself out of that mood. You're not going to bring that down, right? Because you're going into something high vibrational. They're going to turn your mood around. And that's exactly what we saw with some of these people. So just reminded this week, and when you're in this eclipse, if you're feeling just down and out, not wanting to do anything, feeling like your mood is going to ruin something or someone, don't let that stop you, because if you're going into something very high vibrational, that energy will win you over. Especially if there's multiple high vibrational people, again, that energy will win you over. 1 week left on my cleanse. This is the juice week, only liquids. It's crazy. But if you want to know more about the cleanse and the details of the cleanse, and I posted an episode last week with my cleanse coach, FJ, and he's incredible. We don't just talk about that. He lived on a Buddhist monastery, went to school. He has so many amazing stories that will just fill your mind, body, and soul. So definitely check that out. And one more thing before I get into this week's retreat. Guess what's coming up after this episode, everyone? I did eclipse horoscopes again. And I mean, who am I? I'm getting my shit done quick and fast. Not quick and fast. I to put a lot of time into it, but I'm doing it much more and making the time for it. So after this episode drops, there will be a Scorpio eclipse horoscope for my rising sign. So just stay tuned for that, and definitely check out last week's cleanse episode. Okay, so let's talk about this lunar eclipse. We're getting ready to finish out the eclipse season. So the eclipse season that was bouncing between Scorpio and Taurus originally began in December of 2021, and we had an eclipse in the sign of Taurus. And it was a lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. I'm sorry, it's November 2021. Wow. And then the first Scorpio eclipse came May 15th of 2022. And then we had another one in Taurus and Scorpio in the fall of 2022. And then now, when we're switching signs, one will come in. So we just had the Aries, which is sort of kicking off. Simultaneously, the Aries Libra is kicking off while the Scorpio Taurus is ending. The axis between that is ending. So one of the things we're going to pay attention to is what was happening last May, at May 15th, 2022, and what happened that first month. Eclipses are a plot twist. It's something that unfolds. Sometimes it's that day, but often it's a story that unfolds between these eclipses. And when the first eclipse happens, you'll start feeling things or seeing things maybe a week after, 2 weeks after. Sometimes it can be right then and there. But think back and look at your whole sign Scorpio house on your chart and what's there. Are there planets there? What house does that rule? What are the house topics? And look back to last May, and is the same with this past fall. What was happening in your life? What story was playing out? I have mine is my house of siblings and communication and everything in my third house. And around that time, I had found out that one of my siblings was getting divorced, and it was a hard divorce. And I have Mars in my seventh house of marriage. So it sort of has been playing out with that, as well as working on my own communication when it comes to relationships and how I can have avoidant, anxious attachment style. So just to give you a small glimpse of that. Now the people, and I'll talk more on my rising sign horoscopes about this, the people in the angular houses that have this, the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th are going to be feeling this much bigger and in bigger ways, in a lot of ways. So this lunar eclipse, unfortunately, is going to be, a tough one. It's not going to be easy. I hate starting out and I'll say the same thing with the horoscope, starting this out, because a lot of times people want to just hear the positive, and they get very overwhelmed by hearing something that is perceived as negative. And what I always share is we have this duality. I know some people believe in the oneness, but we have, the way I see life, which is very Mercury, we have a duality. If we have light, we have dark. If we have, for lack of better words, because people don't always like these words, good, then we have bad. If we have good times, we have hard times. You get what I'm saying? And so not every astrology transit is really going to be oh my God, amazing, I'm reborn, this is awesome. A lot of them are going to be really hard, and it's going to be the tough stuff. But it's how you handle that tough stuff that really shows and guides the light and tells you and really grows your spirit, it's unique growth opportunities, I like to say. And it also makes us stronger. So I just want to preface with that. This is going to be a very, very, very strong emotional eclipse. We had the solar eclipse almost 2 weeks ago in Aries, and that was very strong and passionate, came on strong, but it felt like reborn. And then this coming week, we're like, okay, we're reborn, but yet I'm still sort of feeling some emotions, and I'm feeling kind of sad, and I'm feeling kind of wompy. Again, Mars in Cancer, that's and that plays out with this Scorpio eclipse. And then this week, those feelings that we're still feeling are going to come to a head. They're going to come to a head. We're going to start feeling this probably Thursday, well into the weekend. And like I said, the big thing is going to be feeling emotions very, very deeply, and feeling emotions that don't make sense, and maybe feeling past emotions that are already coming out. So we have this lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, and the moon is not happy in the sign of Scorpio. It's in its fall, and the moon currently has Mars, Scorpio's ruling planet, there, which it's also in its fall. So there's mutual reception, kind of like there is with Mercury retrograde, but they're in each other's fall. So it's Mercury, and not Mercury retrograde. It's the two planets are in its fall. And so I didn't come up with this, but I think it's a great example. My teacher, who I learned from, Adam Ellenboss, he was talking about this, and I thought this was the perfect example. He had said it is like two drunk people coming home from the bar. Imagine they just made like a horrible mess. Their lives are a mess. They lost their keys. Everything is, hey, they got into a fight at the bar. But they have each other, and they're walking home, holding each other up and figuring it out. And they know they'll make it to the end, and at least they're not alone. Someone is helping them carry the damage and the wreckage that they just kind of caused. And so it's a little bit of that feeling. There's small support, but there's a little bit of wreckage and emotional wreckage that comes. And like I said, this is going to be a harder plot change in life, something that we maybe did not see coming because it's happening opposite Uranus in Taurus right now, so where Mercury retrograde is happening. So it's something that we didn't see coming. It's sort of coming out of the blue. It could be a conversation of someone, ending something, breaking things off, because we have Mercury retrograde also pretty much going opposite this eclipse right before the eclipse becomes exact. So someone coming and saying, hey, I don't want you to be in this group anymore. I don't want to be your friend anymore. Or saying like, hey, I found out what you actually did to me 6 months ago, or one of those past Mercury retrogrades, and we can no longer, we got to talk about this, but things have been permanently changed. And so this is like a big permanent change in our emotions. And it could be our emotions of just getting over something, like feeling that final feel and then releasing whatever was holding you back, or ending something you didn't want to, because it was too traumatic or too toxic or just not good for you. You were seeing that. So, when it goes opposite Uranus, it adds even a bigger sudden plot change. And I think the plot changes will happen pretty quick with this. It might have seemed to be riding out, but the plot twist is going to happen sudden and maybe come on as chaotic, where your emotions sort of don't know how to act. They don't know if you feel happy about it, if you feel sad about it, if you're crying, if you're emotional, it doesn't know how it's going to act. So, you're going to feel stuck in your emotions. So during this time, this week, it's going to be really important to rest. It's going to be really important to drink water, to rest, to listen to your body. Remember, we have Mars in Cancer, so we don't want to overwork our body during this time, because there can be accidents that happen. You could get exhaustion. You could end up getting a heat stroke. I don't want to scare people, but I'm trying to add to like Mars in Cancer type of things. And so anytime you're going to overexert your body, when your body's telling you to stop, don't do it. Do not overexert yourself, because there can be some trauma to the body that then happens with this eclipse. So keep that in mind. Don't overdo anything this weekend, and listen to your body. Rest, rest, rest. That is going to be the most important, especially if your body is telling you that, because we have this happening with the South Node, which adds the loss of something, the loss of an energy, the removal of an energy. So just keep that in mind. I can't emphasize that enough, because we don't want to have accidents. And, with this, you overexert your body, it's going to be tough. You say, oh, I'm super tired. I only slept 2 hours, but I'm still going to the gym for 2 hours, and I'm going to really pump that iron. Well, you might end up tearing something in your shoulder that puts you out for a couple months. And this is the type of shit that actually does happen that's the kind of plot twist during this, especially being so involved with Mars in Cancer as well. Remember where it's at its fall. So the positive things you could do while you're stuck in your emotions is you could call a really good friend, someone who brings you out of yourself, and say, hey, I just need you to distract me with your life. I need you to talk because I need to get out of myself. Or I just need you to listen. This would be a good time to go on a soft walk, or maybe do one of those meditation water tanks, the deprivation tank, I think is what it's called. Those are really nice, actually. I've done that a few times. Do that, something that soothes your body, something that relaxes you, something that calms down. You might, during this time, have an emotional blow up that changes, like I think I said this earlier, changes the course of a relationship with someone. And an emotional blow up, maybe it was a resentment that's been building inside of you, because that's usually what causes the blow ups, is a resentment. And so this resentment blows up inside of you and you blow up. So we got to watch our words with this, because sometimes, right, we blow up with someone and it does change the emotional course of the relationship. Maybe it brings maybe someone sees a side of you, or you see a side of someone else that was really scary and you didn't want to, and you realize, oh, they got some darkness in there that I don't know if I want to play with. Or maybe someone's just sick of your shit and it's the same emotional blow up that you keep doing again, or they're doing to you, and you're like, I'm done. Like, this is the last time. I can't take this anymore. It's not good for me, and will bring like a true emotional ending. This can bring on hard time processing emotions. And I think being a little bit of hazy in your emotions, and like I said that earlier, but not really sure what you're quite feeling. This can bring a change in the way you feel about your living environment. Maybe your living environment has not been very healthy for you and you're finally seeing it this week. Or maybe you're just sick of it and it's not fostering any sort of way. And there could also be you're just sick of it. Like will be like, I'm just sick of it for no reason. And then if that's the case, just practice gratitude. Practice gratitude, because sometimes it won't be as serious where you're like, oh my God, this is so toxic. I have to get out of this living arrangement. Yes, that can big time happen with this, but sometimes it is, I hate everything. I am not comfortable here. I hate this bed. I don't want this. I don't want that. What do I want? Again, if you're not in danger, if it's really not toxic, it's just you getting in your own head because you have some feelings that you don't know what you're even feeling, but they're going to be like aggressive, hostile feelings, then practice gratitude. That's the best thing. And it brings you back down. Practice, you know what? Change your mindset. Your mindset can be changed so fast with writing a gratitude list. Write out, say, you know what, I'm great. Even if you don't feel it in the moment, I'm grateful for my couch. I'm grateful to have heat. I'm grateful for this house. And that might switch your mindset quicker so you don't get stuck. Because remember, we're going to get stuck in our emotions a little bit this week and this weekend. And stuck also in your emotional thought patterns. And you might get so sick, like, oh, this is why I do that, because this is how my parents process their emotions all the time. And this is how my parents did that, or my sister did that, or our family. The way we process emotions, it's very karmic, and we're taught through our parents. And again, this isn't shouting on our parents. Each generation, parent and child, have things to heal and grow through. We're changing decades through our ancestral line. So but anyways, general fights or emotional damage that can change the relationship for so good or shift the dynamics around big time. I'm telling you, that's going to be a big theme. So just watch yourself. If you're feeling it coming, stop yourself and say, okay, let me say something positive, or let me just keep my mouth shut, because during this time, I know that big changes and endings can happen from these emotional fights. And here's some questions to check in with yourself during this time. We can use this time to grow, to shift emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We don't need to be stuck in just as woe is me, this is going to be so bad. When the hard times happen, we need to it's a chance for us to raise our consciousness, and that's what we need to do. And so each time we do that, these hard times, they get a little easier because we're freeing ourselves and we're raising our consciousness. So here's some awareness, some check-in questions. If you're not driving, write these down. If you have a chance, write them down. Eclipse awareness questions. Now, why is this emotionally triggering for me? when we get emotionally triggered, oftentimes we just start, it's like you send off a ping pong ball in your head and in your chest. And it's a boom, 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 and it's bouncing around, and you actually really have no idea what is the core of that trigger. And you want to blame the surfaced, conscious reason why and what you're seeing, but what's the bigger reason? What's the underlying reason? Because everything has an underlying reason. We can't be triggered by something that isn't already in us. And whether it's a pattern from us, whether it's emotional damage from someone prior, maybe it's a history, with someone or something prior, that is really what is triggering us. So first, ask yourself, why is this so emotionally triggering? And write it down. Again, when you take the pen to paper, that will take you a little bit outside of your head and outside of your emotions. And write down, and there might be a couple of things. First, you might write, well, this is why. And then you add something else. Well, that's actually the deeper reason why. And then you go, that's actually the deeper reason why, so forth and so on. And the next question is kind of tied into what I just said. Is there another layer under this original conscious reaction? When we first have a reaction, it's our conscious reaction. How do we normally react to that situation? How do we normally react to that person? And so that is something that came out of our subconscious that's now conscious. However, that's conscious now. There's layers upon layers in our subconscious underneath that, which is sort of fascinating, and also overwhelming at the same time. So when we ask ourselves that, it's same with writing what's emotionally triggered. Like I said, these two questions go hand in hand. Now ask yourself, what are the underlying original conscious reaction? Now, what's the subconscious? What's the stuff behind it? So if you write out here's the conscious reaction, what other reactions, like where did this conscious reaction come from? What does it stem from? What does it feel like? And what does it mean? And then from there, you can say, okay, well, how can I bring out a new reaction? What else is in my subconscious that's boiling out? And during this time, we can see also old subconscious reactions coming out that we didn't even know were in us. And especially ones that maybe come from our mother, our grandmothers, those sort of things. And stuff that you really thought you healed can come back and bite you. And if that happens, I hate to say bite you, that just means it's still in you. And when we don't, you got to heal to feel. And when we don't get these emotions out of us, when we don't remove them, they make us sick. That energy stays in us, and it's layer upon layer upon layer. So this is a unique opportunity, these harder times, to free yourself of that and become more of a conscious being living in this conscious world. I can definitely tell you that. Like I said, later today, tomorrow, I'll be posting the more personalized horoscopes for this. Those horoscopes, they're not going to be like sunshine. It's going to be more about what you guys will probably face emotionally with this eclipse. But remember, things will pass. I mean, like May 16th, I think that I said that week's going to be like a beautiful rebirth. So I'm excited about that. So today we got Pluto retrograde beginning. And so Pluto retrograde will begin, and it's actually going to retrograde back into Capricorn. And it's going to go back into Capricorn from June 11th until January 21st, 2024. And then it will not leave. So it enters Aquarius again, January 21st, 2024. And it will not leave Aquarius again until March 8th, 2043. I was thinking about that. I was like, holy shit, I'm going to be 54 years old. That's like a lot. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's a lot of life will happen, but oh my God. I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy. It's going to be there, the Aquarius in my 6th house for 20 years. So look at your 6th house. Again, with Pluto, we look more of the collective, not so personal, except when a personal planet hits it or goes into like a transit with that. So we're going to be finishing up some loose ends in Capricorn area of your chart, and with that, finalizing your power. We look at our power in Pluto, and maybe we felt more empowered at the end of Capricorn, and then we lost a little bit, and now you're finalizing that power. And the same goes with the collective out in this world. Finalizing, your power before it steamrolls and makes lots of changes in Aquarius, which is going to what it's going to do in Aquarius. You're going to say, okay, is my power grounded? Am I grounded? What does this look like? And also replaying a shadow in case you missed it. And the same goes for the collective. We keep replaying things in our lives until we learn the lesson, and we subconsciously attract it. And we can go there, talk about a lot of subconscious stuff. We subconsciously attract it. So replaying a shadow in case you missed something, or because you missed something, not in case, because you missed something. And now you have to learn so you can move forward without being stuck in this sort of behavior, this subconscious behavior. Again, the same goes for the collective. This week with the going retrograde, I don't really think you're going to feel a lot with this. Maybe a little bit on the collective, but not too much. I got to look. I didn't look ahead, but I'm sure I'll be talking when it makes its first back into Capricorn transit with another planet. Then we'll see it kick up a little bit. Okay. So on Friday, at the same time as this is Thursday night into Friday, as the eclipse is happening, let's talk some Venus. So we're finishing out the Venus and Gemini story. So Thursday night, Venus squares Neptune in Gemini and Pisces. And so we're going to be lost about how we feel about someone, or maybe the veil of some sort of kind about someone has been lifted. You see the truth within them, and maybe you didn't want to see the truth, but now you see the truth. But I think this is going to be, especially with Mercury retrograde still happening, and Gemini Venus still being in Gemini, it's going to be a little bit like, how do I really feel about this person? And that could be friend, family, lover. How do I feel about them? Is this correct? Am I wrong here? Am I being delusional in my own feelings? Am I being delusional in their feelings? That type of stuff will be happening. And then on Friday, Venus in Gemini will also sextile Jupiter in Aries before Venus moves into Cancer on Sunday. So big self-expression changes this weekend. We can look like you're finally able to show the world who you are. I've talked on the podcast with Venus and Gemini. We're being more open-minded and expressing ourselves in ways that make us happy and not really giving an F what anyone thinks. So you might really you've been maybe tossing around back and forth, but now you're actually really showing up in that big self-expression change and showing the world, this is who I am, this is what I like, this is my joy, and I don't care. There also can be a last-ditch effort, especially with Venus squaring Neptune the night before, a last-ditch effort to really express your love or admiration to someone, or maybe they'll do it to you. Maybe there was a fight that comes because you're not sure how you felt someone, and now you're like, hey, I really, I love you, I need you, I want you, and the same, or someone could be saying that to you, like a last-ditch effort with a lot of hope, a lot of drive, and maybe a little bit of aggression to win someone over again, or to win over a friendship, or win over, your job, or something like that that strong, we got Jupiter in Aries, so we got the god of war bringing wisdom, and Venus in Gemini, like explaining that, letting that communication flow. So, hey, this is really what you need to know. Please don't give up. Like those sort of conversations can happen. And also trying to get someone to really hear your wisdom, and you have a tiny breakthrough. And it doesn't have to be around relationships or love. It could be like, hey, this isn't good for you. Please just listen to the wisdom. Or, hey, I know that you're so down and out right now, but trust this wisdom. And you have a little breakthrough. With the sextile, it's something in the beginning, and you have a tiny breakthrough within that. And, at the beginning, and hopefully you guys were a little bit more open with Venus and Gemini, and being open and not shy about who you are and allowing yourself to express yourself no matter what that looks like. Whew. But either way, this transit, I think, will be filled with a little bit of enjoyment and seeking out the fun in a much bigger way. Like you're finally able to do it. At the beginning of the transit with Gemini, like I said, Venus and Gemini, you were open to new ideas. And now by the end of this, you're like, yeah, I'm really ready to jump on that. I'm doing it. So you're going to find new big ways to really seek out that enjoyment in a big way. And also awesome and open conversations about spirituality and really building a deeper connection will be happening this weekend, which I'm excited. And on Monday's episode, I'll talk a little bit more about Venus and Cancer because we've already gone to past my limit of 30 minutes. But I just want to say on Sunday, Venus will move into Cancer and we come back to our bodies. After being in our minds and having all of that and having Mars in Cancer, we're sort of like coming back into our bodies. And really beginning to merge our mind and body with those new mentally stimulating joys and stuff like that. So Whew, that was a long-winded episode. Finished it at 30 minutes. I hope it's not too long. Remember, stay tuned because the next episode will be about the rising sign horoscopes. But I hope everyone has a beautiful day, a beautiful Monday, and the weather will still shift. So this week, if you're in the Philadelphia area, the northeast part of the country, I know we're all like, I was thinking that this morning because I woke up a little wah-wah. So sick of it. It's 55 degrees all week. And I said, no, Colleen. What are you doing? You're creating more resistance when you do that. You're creating more, it's not ease. How can you say, wow, I really appreciate this weather? Because if I woke up today and it was snowing, I'd be even more pissed. So how do we, this is a good practice. And how do we maintain happiness when something isn't exactly the way we want it and it doesn't give us all those good feels, which goes with the eclipse? How do we still stay content, happy, and joyful within that? I hope everyone has a fabulous day. Thank you for always listening and tuning in, and I love you guys so much.